I was sitting near the back of a five-star restaurant in San Diego, a place with crystal glasses, expensive plates, and quiet music, celebrating a recent business win. It's the kind of place where people are absorbed in their own worlds, where no one really looks up from their conversations. Then, the front door opened, breaking the quiet hum of the evening. A young mother stepped inside, rain dripping from her worn-out jacket. She held a small boy in her arms, his head resting weakly against her shoulder, his face pale and tired. She walked a few steps into the restaurant, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of desperation and embarrassment. She approached the nearest table and spoke so softly it was almost a whisper, her voice trembling slightly. "Sir, I'm so sorry to bother you. Could you possibly spare any food? My son, he hasn't eaten since yesterday." Before the man at the table could even process her words, a server rushed over, his face a mask of fury. "Ma'am, this is a private restaurant, not a charity. You need to leave, now." His voice was sharp and loud, cutting through the soft music. Suddenly every table went silent. Forks and knives paused mid-air. All eyes turned toward the entrance. People stared at the woman and her child, then at the angry server. There was a palpable tension, a collective discomfort. But no one moved. No one said a word. It felt like time had frozen. At a corner table, a man named Ethan Brooks sat alone. He was a well-known tech investor, a man whose net worth was in the millions. In front of him sat a lavish meal, lobster and a perfectly cooked steak, completely untouched, growing cold on the plate. He had been staring at his phone, but the commotion had drawn his attention. He looked at the mother, clutching her child, her face filled with shame. He looked at the server, rigid with indignation, and he looked at the other diners, frozen in their seats. Slowly, deliberately, Ethan Brooks stood up. His movement was calm, but it commanded the attention of the entire room. He said one word, his voice not loud, but firm and clear. "Stop!" The server froze, turning to look at him, surprised. Ethan walked over to the mother and child. Without a word, he took off his own expensive jacket and gently wrapped it around the woman's shoulders, covering her from the cold. He looked at her with genuine concern and asked softly, "You said your child is hungry?" The woman could only nod, tears finally spilling from her eyes and running down her cheeks. Ethan then turned to the restaurant manager, who had rushed over, unsure of what to do. Ethan's tone was unwavering. "Bring them a full meal. Whatever they want. Tonight, they are my guests." A quiet gasp rippled through the room. The manager, stunned, simply nodded and hurried to the kitchen. The server, who had been so aggressive just moments before, now stood silently, completely deflated. The mother looked at Ethan, her expression a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. A few minutes later, the food arrived. A warm, hearty meal was placed in front of the mother and her son at a small, empty table the staff quickly prepared. As the aroma of the food reached him, the little boy, who had been almost limp in his mother's arms, slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the plate, then up at his mom and whispered, "Mom, is this really for us?" That simple question, spoken with such innocence and wonder, seemed to break something in everyone who heard it. It was a stark reminder of a reality that existed just outside the polished doors of this restaurant. The clinking of glasses and quiet chatter had been replaced by a profound silence. Ethan knelt beside the little boy's chair. He smiled gently and said, "Yes, it is. You're safe now. Eat slowly. There's no need to rush. No one is rushing you." Then Ethan stood up and slowly looked around the room, making eye contact with many of the other diners. His voice wasn't preachy or judgmental, just full of a quiet, powerful truth. "We come here," he said, gesturing to the luxurious surroundings, "and we spend hundreds on a single meal without a second thought. We do it to celebrate, to impress, to feel good. And that's fine, but just outside there are families who are praying just to make it through one more night. There are children who are going to bed hungry." No one spoke. You could have heard a pin drop. The weight of his words settled over the room. The diners looked at their own expensive plates, and for the first time that night, they truly saw them. They saw the contrast, the disparity, and the simple truth of what he was saying. The mother, her hands wrapped around a warm cup, reached out and grabbed Ethan's hand. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what to say. I promise I'll keep trying. I'll find a way." Ethan smiled gently, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "You already are," he replied. "You're a wonderful mother. Don't ever forget that. Needing help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." That night in that 5-star restaurant, one simple act of kindness did more than just feed a hungry child. It was a ripple effect. It changed the atmosphere of the entire room. It changed the perspective of every person who witnessed it. It reminded us all that compassion isn't about grand gestures. It's about seeing the person in front of you and choosing to act. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, especially when it's easiest to look away. That night, one man's choice to stand up didn't just change one life, it touched everyone. It was a powerful lesson that kindness, real, genuine kindness, is the most valuable currency we have. If you believe that kindness still matters in this world, comment the word love down below. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like. And for more powerful stories that remind us of the good in humanity, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.